This is episode 2 of Going Through Your Stories. I literally have thousands of your stories in my inbox. I can never get to them all. I try my best, I really do. So today, we're just gonna go through some again. We've done this already. This is episode 2. I'm gonna probably make this a series. I'm just gonna start somewhere in my inbox, and I'm just gonna read a story and click next, and read a story and click next. I don't know what they're gonna be. I don't know if they're gonna be good, short, long, weird, unexplainable. I don't know if they're gonna make sense. I have no idea what's gonna happen, but we're just gonna see. We're gonna go with it. We're gonna roll with it. You get what you get. What's up, glitches? My name is Jess. People call me Auntie Matrix, and I read your weird, unexplainable stories about things like glitches in the Matrix, dreams, aliens, and the paranormal. Our motto in this community is we believe you. If you want to join our glitch community in Discord, if you want to send in your own story, if you want to hop on the lives that we do sharing stories, or if you want to get my book that just came out, all those links are in the description below. Without further ado, let's pick a place to start. So sit back, grab a snack, and let's get weird. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. So when my friend and I had this experience, we were about 7 years old. My friend lives just over the street, so we could basically have a sleepover every weekend. So we were sleeping over at her house. In my friend's house, her parents had one floor, and she and her brother had one floor. My friend has a very loud front door, which is very important for afterwards. And so my friend had this really stupid baby iPad that were like for little children to play with stupid games, and we wanted to try to stay up all night because we had nothing better to do. About 1 o'clock in the morning, we were playing on that iPad when we suddenly heard the front door, which wasn't really strange because there were also other people living in the house. We just thought maybe someone was out late and just came home. Now we didn't think much of it, so we just kept playing on the iPad. We didn't hear footsteps until suddenly, steps were in the apartment that we were in. We thought maybe her parents were coming to see if we were already asleep, so we quickly put the iPad away and pretended like we were sleeping. The footsteps didn't go on much longer, only about a minute, and then nothing. After some more minutes, we thought that they had gone, but suddenly, we heard footsteps under our bed. And the strangest thing was our door was closed, and it was like an old wooden door, so we would have heard if our door had opened. The door of the apartment didn't open too, so us two little girls were scared to death. We just pretended that we were sleeping, and in the moment, we still just thought it was her parents, but that very quickly changed when we started to hear voices. He was one male voice that was somehow mad and disappointed at a woman with a gentle voice, and that moment we both just pretended to sleep and didn't react to anything. Also, we were like in a bunk bed, both on the top because we wanted to sleep together, and the footsteps were right under us. After a few minutes, about 5, the noise had stopped. We still just lay there doing nothing for about 15 more minutes. After that, we turned around and asked each other what we had heard because we thought maybe we just made that up in our heads, but we both heard the same thing, the same male voice, the same gentle female voice, and the footsteps. I told that story to my mom and she believed me because she had experienced some weird stuff too. I have no idea what that could have been. That's why I wanted to ask you. Maybe you know what was under our bed that day? I hope you do. Bye! Bye! First of all, I want to say kudos to your mom for believing you because a lot of times, especially when you're little, moms will be like, no, it's nothing. That didn't happen. You were dreaming. But your mom was like, no, because she had experiences also, which makes me believe you 100% had some spirits walking around in your room. Did it ever happen again is my question. Now, I don't know, but for some reason, I feel like maybe that was a residual haunting and it was just those two people. Maybe they had lived in the house a long time ago and they were just kind of going through whatever had happened in their real life because they didn't seem to be trying to talk to you. They didn't seem to be trying to get to you at all. So I feel like it was just kind of like a residual haunting situation. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hello. Hi. A month or so ago, we went to a wedding on top of a mountain in another state, my home state. We just moved. In order to get to this wedding, we had to travel an hour up this 4-wheel drive rocky trail. Since a lot of the guests were not familiar with driving this kind of trail, there were buses rented to drive us for safety. There were 4 buses for all the guests. I grew up 4-wheeling these mountains, and I was used to how intense the terrain could be. Going up was no big deal, and I was very entertained by everyone freaking out and had a good laugh. I may add that this trail had several areas where it was cliffside and pretty sketch, but no big deal for me. I felt safe. The wedding was great, and it was beautiful. We all had a great time under the full harvest moon. We boarded the bus again to go back to the hotel when the wedding was over at around 10:30 p.m. We got on the second bus down the mountain. The wedding party was still in the venue for the most part when our bus started to leave. They were on the third bus down. There was one way in and one way out and no way to pass. This will be important to remember. As we were going down, I suddenly got terrified. I felt like something was going to go horribly wrong, and going down was a lot more intense. I closed my eyes and used the seatbelt the whole way. I was terrified, but eventually we did make it down the mountain. Dropped guests off at a first hotel and proceeded to ours. Here is where it gets weird. The third bus that wasn't even loaded when we left the venue had already unloaded their passengers when we got to our stop. Here's the kicker. That bus was delayed twice by one of our friends, so they had to have left a good 15 minutes after us. They made the exact same stops and went to the exact same path that we did. There was no way they passed us because Cliffside four-wheel drive trail, you go single file because there is room for one single car. We made no other stops and we were delayed by one person getting off in the very beginning. I have no idea what happened on that mountain, but I was the only one who thought it was very strange. There is no way that bus should have made it down the mountain and unloaded before us, especially knowing my friend delayed it twice. Also, we've had some strange things disappearing and then reappearing in the last month. My sense of time is wonky and I was always good with time. It's just weird now and I can't shake the feeling that something happened to us that day. So both the buses made the same stops to the hotels too. Like you had to stop at one hotel and then the second hotel. And that bus also had to stop at the one hotel and then the second hotel. Because logically, that's the only thing I could think of is that the second bus didn't stop at the second hotel, but they were delayed. So then to me, either the second bus went through a portal, but couldn't be because you would have went through the same portal. Or B, your bus fell off the mountain and you died, quantum immortality, and you came back into a different timeline in which that bus was in front of you. Those are my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I just started watching you a few weeks ago and I wanted to submit a story of my own because why not? It's definitely not the creepiest one you've heard, but it freaks me out to this day, even though it was 10 to 12 years ago. As a kid, I had weird experiences. For starters, I had an imaginary friend. Her name was Fluffy. That's a funny name for an imaginary friend. At first, she was an innocent friend. I saw her as a mouse, but I would be able to pick out her eye color, hair color, and the color of her clothes. She was a big part of my life, too. I made my mom set out a plate and silverware for her at dinner. Over time, my descriptions of her got more malicious. At one point, I described her with red eyes. This could have just been me making stuff up, but I'm not sure. Like any imaginary friend, she just went away after some time. The little kid me did have some experiences that made Fluffy seem even scarier. At one point, I woke up to see a shadow figure, I believe it to be a woman, standing right next to me. The one significant feature I recall is that she had red eyes. I didn't tell my parents about it at the time, so I don't know if I'm remembering something that didn't happen. I was only 3 to 5 years old, but this is a vivid memory that I have. Another experience I had was in the bathtub as a kid. This was around the same time, and my mom was giving me a bath. She left the room to get me clothes or something and heard me talking. When she came back and asked me who I was talking to, I didn't give a clear answer. Not super creepy from an outside perspective, and I didn't have any other scary experiences, although I always have a fear that I'm being watched. I've had some others, but I don't question those, as I think it's my grandpa that died when my mom was 7. My mom and grandma also have had non-malicious experiences. It'd be nice to get some answers. I love your fan base and your videos. Thanks. So I'm not sure on this one, right? First of all, I want to know if this mouse that you were describing, if Fluffy, when you saw her as a mouse, was she a giant mouse, like a human-sized mouse? Or was she like a tiny little mouse? And if you started seeing her with red eyes, I mean, it's very possible that it was not a good, not a good entity that was pretending to be your imaginary friend. But I don't know why it would just go away. In the bath, you could have been talking to it. You could have been talking to anything, honestly, any different spirit or anything. Maybe you were talking to your grandpa in the bathtub. I wonder if the shadow figure was Fluffy watching you while you slept. But again, I wonder why they went away. Imaginary friends are rarely ever imaginary friends. I need to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I wanted to tell you a story of how a ghost that once haunted my house ended up protecting me on a ghost tour from a dark entity. In the year 2000, I began to have an encounter with a spirit we call Ben. He suddenly started showing up at the house one summer. Friends and family would catch a glimpse of him at times without me even telling them we had a ghost. He seemed to be lost, but always protected me, as you'll see in the following story. Every time I went to a psychic, they would tell me that he was there and protecting me without me even mentioning him. Psychics always described him as about 16 with dark hair, a big facial scar, and had died in a car crash. Fast forward to 2009, I landed a job as a tour guide for a ghost tour in Tasmania, Australia. There was a funeral home from the late 1800s as part of the tour. I hated it in there and would turn on all the lights to set up before the tour. I had never seen it myself, but 8 years as a tour guide, I can tell you that tourists always mention the same thing in the same place: a dark, scary entity in the hallway of the funeral home. In the last 4 years of the tour, I was allowed to take my well-behaved dog on the tour as he helped calm frightened tourists and made me feel safe walking home at night. I never took my dog into the funeral home to set up. I just left him outside the door and would only take him in when I was doing an actual tour. One night, for some reason, I took him inside the funeral home. I let him sit in the main room that faced the hallway whilst I set up the other room for the tour. He was a calm dog that never barked. As I was setting up, I heard him growl, and then I heard him barking. I ran around the corner to find him lunging at the entrance to the hall, teeth showing and all of his hair on end. He let out a massive yelp and raced out the door. Nothing was physically there that he could have been attacking. After this, I left him outside the door whilst we did the tour. One day, a medium from America called Marika was on the tour. We were in the exact same room. My dog had gone crazy. I jokingly said, "Marika, you're a medium. Do you see any ghosts down here?" I did not know this woman at all, and she looked me straight in the eye, and she said, "Yes, your friend, Ben, who died in a car crash, is here. He comes on the tour every night with you." I froze, and I still get goosebumps now thinking about it. I remember being puzzled and said, "Why would he come on the tour every night?" The medium pointed at the hallway and said, "He's protecting you from what's in that hallway. Why your dog won't enter here." I looked at her and said, "Marika, what's in the hallway?" And she said, "I don't want to talk about it here. We need to go." Everyone on the tour heard this. When we got outside, I told them about Ben and about the dog and what had happened in that room. Later on, the psychic told me in the hallway was a dark entity that wasn't human. It confirmed what people had been saying for years. I've had many ghost encounters in my life, but this stood out to me for making me feel both scared, amazed, and protected, all at the same time. Thank you so much for reading my story. I wonder who Ben is to you. I wonder if Ben is a spirit guide. I wonder if Ben is an angel. I wonder, I feel like maybe he's a guide that's protecting you. I think that's so awesome that he followed you everywhere and he even came to the funeral home to work with you to make sure that you were protected from this crazy thing. And your dog, man, ooh, animals do not lie. Dogs do not lie. If your dog's freaking out, like there is something to freak out about. And to hear that psychic validate everything that had happened to you without you telling her must have felt so good, but also really terrifying. This is a great story. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Has anyone else ever called themselves? I was standing in my kitchen nearly 10 years ago. I was getting a glass of water for a friend of mine who was visiting for a few hours. My husband, our friend, and I were talking about the local spring water that we loved and enjoyed very much. Just then, my house phone began to ring. I grabbed it off the counter to answer the call and noticed the caller ID said it was my own phone number calling me. We only had the one phone line for that number. How could this be? When I grabbed the phone to answer it, the ringing stopped. I answered the phone and said hello many times. I couldn't hear anything on the other end of the line, nothing. I looked at the time and it was 3:33 p.m. We were all amazed and curious as to what happened. We tried to explain it away, but the time had stuck in my head as a marker of significance. At this time in my life, I was seeing synchronized number sequences every day. Could it be a sign from myself from another timeline or a sign from the universe? What do you think? Till this day, I still wonder what happened and how it was possible for me to call myself that day. P.S. attached is a screenshot of the post I made several years back. Strangest thing just happened. My house phone just rang, and when I looked at the caller ID, it was a call from myself, from the number that was being called. It only rang a couple of times, and when I grabbed the phone to answer it, the ringing stopped. The call registered at 3:33. Interesting. What does this mean? Any suggestions or any explanations? I have not personally had that experience. I feel like other people have had that experience. I feel like I have heard in the stories I've gone through of some people going through that experience before, having their own self call them. I definitely feel like if it was at 3:33 p.m., it was significant. I'm wondering, what were you doing at the time, or what were you thinking about? Because whenever you're seeing synchronized numbers, angel numbers like that, always pay attention to what you're thinking about or what you're doing in the moment that you're seeing it, because it's normally a confirmation of some sort of something that's going on. I know that's very specific, but I can't tell you what it was because I don't know what you were doing or thinking in that moment. If it was your number calling you, it very well could have been you from another timeline, or maybe even like your higher self in some way, you know? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I found it fitting to finally email you after having fallen asleep on all of your videos because I love the weird dreams. And while listening, I kept telling myself that you must hear my story, which happened in a dream when I was around 9 or 10. I don't remember much of this dream beyond the 10-minute window, in dream time, if that makes sense, that this happened. All I remember, and crystal clear at that, was being me, same age in life, but being in a dimly lit but pretty busy/loud cabin. So lots of people in my dream. Anyways, I was walking along the bottom part of a large fireplace in the cabin, trying to show off or something, and I lost my balance and fell. As I fell, the left side of my face scraped all along the bottom of the mantle of this stone-laid fireplace. I think rough outer edges of rock, mountain style. And I blacked out. In this dream, I awoke moments later, feeling the warm blood on my face from where it scraped the rocks, and I cried and begged for my mom. She must have been close because she ran into the cabin and carried me out. I assumed to take care of me? I don't know, because that's where the dream ended. The next morning, I awoke, and the left side of my face felt raw and painful. I went to check it out in the bathroom mirror, and I saw what looked like massive road burn down that side of my entire face. I was bandaged up where I could be and covered in antibacterial cream everywhere else. I called my mom and asked what happened, and she said around 2 or 3 a.m., she heard a loud thump from my room and ran in scared to see what happened. She found me rolled out of bed and bleeding on the left side of my face. She said she carried me to the bathroom and cleaned up/bandaged my face and then put me back in bed. She said I didn't wake up at all. The thing is, there was not a single thing in my room back then that would have caused that kind of damage to my face, no matter how hard I would have to fall out of the bed. The wounds didn't make sense for just rolling out of bed. It creeped me and my mom out so much, but she never did believe the dream I had. She thinks I made it up. But I didn't. I am a very vivid dreamer, and the dream feels like an actual memory. And I don't know if this constitutes a glitch in the Matrix per se, but whatever happened to me in that dream physically manifested on me in real life with no explanation. And I mean, it will just always be so weird. So when we're dreaming, we're astral traveling to like all different places a lot of the time, right? And I've heard both, that when you're astral traveling, I've heard that A, you can't hurt your physical body because it's not your physical body that's traveling around. But I've heard B, that sometimes damage done while in another dimension, while you're traveling or timeline or whatever you want to call it, can cause actual damage to your body. I'm not sure which is true, but it does sound like you were traveling to another timeline or dimension in your dreams, and that happened and it physically manifested on your physical body, which is just crazy. I'm sorry that your mom didn't believe your dream, but we believe you. What have you guys heard about this? Let me know if you think that this can happen or not, or if it was something else that was going on here. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Love your content. This is technically 2 stories that happened over the course of 5 months at 2 different group homes. You can call me Sunny. Hello, Sunny. I worked as a living caretaker at 2 different group homes, both in Arizona, before I officially realized it was not for me. Story number 1. The first group home I was in, I was the only caretaker. At night, when I was up in my room, I could hear dragging footsteps coming toward my door. But when I would open the door, nothing. I finally got scared enough to not sleep in there anymore and decided to sleep in the room with one of the residents that needed the most attention. One night, I was walking through the house doing my rounds, and I heard a blood-curdling scream from outside. I took a look out the window to see if I could see anything, but no one was there. I ignored it. But then I heard it again. One of the more able-bodied residents heard it too, and she walked around with me to look. She wanted to go outside and look, but I refused to let her open the door. I told her to go to bed, and I did the same. Then I heard the scream again from inside the house. It sounded like it was right outside the bedroom door. Both of us opened our doors at the same time, and all she could ask was, "You heard it too?" I made sure the residents were well and went back to the bedroom. I left 2 days later. Other things happened in that house, but mostly involved a dementia resident. I think she was being haunted by her past. Oh! Story number 2. When I left that group home, I went directly to another one. This home was definitely better. I had coworkers and help. There would be random occurrences when we would see things out of the corner of our eyes, or a few times when I felt a random grip on my butt. What? A ghost are grabbing your behind? I ended up leaving after a few months because of management, but my last night there is where it gets truly spooky. I was walking through the house cleaning and doing laundry for all the residents. One of the residents was in the hospital, and I was particularly getting his room in order for when he got back. Another caretaker and I were in his room, taking all the clothes out of his drawers to wash them. I took the drawers out of the dresser and I shook them out on the floor, and my coworker went behind me and wiped them with the disinfectant. This is important. There was a glow stick that I bought for the resident that kept moving places in his room, and if that wasn't strange enough, I kept feeling touches on me. Like the feeling of getting your arms or back touched while having a conversation, or that feeling that someone is standing too close. I felt breathing on me, and at one point I swear I got licked. Oh my God, ew. Like I felt the warmth and wetness of a tongue on my arm. The clothes were in the dryer, and I decided that I would put them away the next morning, and I went to bed. I fell asleep on the couch right outside the bedroom door where we were cleaning. The next morning, I made breakfast like I typically would, and I folded all the clothes to put them in their proper spots. I opened the top drawer of the dresser that my coworker and I had cleaned out the night before, and there was a rotten tooth in the middle of the drawer. I got goosebumps. I was so creeped out, my skin was crawling. I called my coworker to show her, and she asked me how it got there. We were both dumbfounded. When the manager came, I showed her the tooth and told her the story, and she insisted that it was the resident in the hospital trying to say goodbye. I left that day and never looked back. I think spirits and things of that sort follow me. I always have strange things happen to or around me. Those were definitely 2 of the strangest, creepiest things I have ever experienced. So when you were saying group homes, the first thing I was thinking of is like group homes that like children who need to be adopted are in. But then you're talking about elderly people, so I wonder if you mean like an old folks home or a nursing home. That's the word I'm looking for, a nursing home. And absolutely, there is so much activity that goes on in those places, especially because a lot of people pass there. The first one with the screaming, that's terrifying. The second one where someone literally licked you, ew. And your coworker thought that the tooth was like a goodbye present? Does that mean that that person passed that was supposed to come back from the hospital? I would hope you wouldn't leave a tooth and lick your arm as a goodbye present. That's like real creepy. I don't know, but whew, this story gave me chills a little bit. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Since I was about 17 years old, I'm now 27, I've experienced what I can best describe as sleep paralysis on a somewhat regular basis. However, what I experience doesn't match what sleep paralysis is defined as when I research the phenomenon. What happens to me feels more like being stuck between being asleep and awake. To keep it brief, it feels like my body is fighting to keep me asleep, meaning I can't move or speak, and when I try to open my eyes, I can't keep them open for a long time before I fall back asleep again. In these moments of fighting sleep, I will experience, hear, and feel things happening around me that aren't actually happening. For example, I will hear my husband come into the room and lay down in the bed, but when I finally wake up, he's not even home. Or the scariest example is that I once heard my roommate screaming bloody murder when she wasn't in our apartment. I could talk about these crazy experiences all day, but I really wanted to tell you about the event that started it all. Like I mentioned, I was about 17 when I experienced my first sleep paralysis episode, but it was not like any of the others. To start, my childhood home was set up where my room was at the end of a short hallway. The main living space in the house was pretty much a straight shot from my door, but you couldn't see the living room couch from inside my room. On this night, I had been asleep in my room for a couple of hours and my mom was awake watching TV in the living room. I woke up around 11 p.m. to see a dark figure standing at the foot of my bed. In a sleepy daze, I thought it was one of my friends, who had a similar body shape, messing with me, and sat up a bit to say something. At that moment, the figure fell like a tree being chopped down heavy onto my legs. Still thinking this was my friend, I giggled and pushed it off and said something like, "Stop messing around," friend's name. As I was laying back down, that's when it hit me that I was alone in my room and there was no way that could have been my friend. Right then, I felt something grab a hold of me, like a body wrapping around mine to keep me down. I couldn't open my eyes back up or move. I got the urge to scream for my mom to the living room, but I couldn't. And right then, a deep voice, I can still hear it to this day, spoke directly in my right ear. It said phrases like, "You can't call for her," and "Your mom can't help you," over and over in my ears as it held me down. Trying to get out of its grip, I knew I had to make myself move, so I started wiggling my fingers in hopes to trigger the other muscles in my arms to move. The wiggling moved up my arm until about my elbow when, all of a sudden, I was released. I shot up out of bed and I ran to my mom in the living room. I was sobbing so hard I couldn't tell her what happened for several minutes. After that night, I didn't sleep in my room for a very, very long time, and my friends would come over and say that they would see something out of the corner of their eye moving in my bedroom at night. I didn't sleep in my room again until my friends and I cleansed my room, but that's a story for another time. I used to experience sleep paralysis a lot when I was younger. I haven't in a long time, but I've never experienced a sleep paralysis demon that I can remember. Maybe I just blocked it out. But oh my God, having something holding you down and whispering in your ear that someone can't help you is terrifying. Do you still experience sleep paralysis now? Who else here has had sleep paralysis demons holding them down? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your spooky story. Hey, Tessica. Hi. Remember when I had that dream about you and you stabbed me? Oh my God, I do. This person wrote to me and told me that they had a dream that I stabbed them. Okay. Well, things have gotten more intense since then. I still get lucid dreams fairly often, and I still ask for the time, and I still get paralysis after, like a punishment. The last time I had men chasing me and shouting, "Stop!" before I woke up in paralysis. That was a few months ago, though, and I haven't had one since, until tonight. I just woke up and my heart is still beating so fast. So in the dream, I was with these 3 girls whom I have never seen before in real life. We were just having a conversation, and they asked if I would like to go to a bar with them. We started running between wooden houses and left the one girl behind. We ran into a warehouse where people were working with machinery and sparks were flying everywhere. Supposedly one of the girls' mother's job. We kept running, and as I was running, I realized that I'm dreaming. They go through an exit door and I lose them. I then go into one of those wooden houses and I see this guy I am talking to in real life. As I'm talking to him, I ask him my favorite question, "What time is it?" He says that he doesn't know and he asks me the same. I look around and nothing happens. I look at his face and it starts to misshapen. So I start asking different questions like, "What day is today? What did you do yesterday?" And he's like, "I don't know." Then I see the same men who chased me in white suits come through the doors and the walls. Had to be like 6 of them. One says, "We told you to stop before." And I start running back into the warehouse while trying to wake myself up. I do, and of course, in paralysis. This time, though, it felt much longer, maybe 30 minutes, and I felt something pull my hair. Kind of want to talk to these men, though. Should I try? What is wrong with you, friends? If you keep asking what the time is and you keep getting chased and scared the shit out of and then held down in sleep paralysis, why do you keep doing it? Although, you know what? Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You should talk to them because I want to know what they say. This whole thing intrigues me so much and I just really want to know. I really want to know. So yeah, go. You know what? If you're brave like this, go get some more information and please pass that on. Who else has asked the time in a dream and had a scary ass experience? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love the stories. Keep them coming. I've got one myself too, although hearing all the other very weird and unexplainable stories, mine seems to be not all that strange, although it scared the crap out of me back then. This is not a glitch in the Matrix story, but more of a Hatman one. This happened about 30 years ago, but I never forgot because of the uneasy feeling that house gave me. I used to live together with my then boyfriend in his rather old apartment. Think wooden floors, no central heating, individual gas heaters in every room, crappy electricity, etc. Entering the apartment, second floor, turning right, there was a living room, front of the apartment. To the left from the front door and down the hallway on the right-hand side, there was a room where we did our laundry. This was adjacent to the living room and had double doors to the living room. On the left-hand side of the hallway, there was the kitchen, which had a window looking out on the wall of the apartment next door. Further down the hall was a landing with a bathroom on the right and 2 bedrooms at the back of the apartment. The left one was the biggest one and was the one we used to sleep in. The other room was smaller and was more storage room rather than a guest bedroom or something like that. I had always had the feeling that there was something off in this apartment, but I can't describe what it was. It was just an uneasy feeling. One night, I was sleeping in our bedroom when all of a sudden, the window opened by itself and the curtains were blown straight into the room. And I mean horizontally, which is strange because we had wooden blinds on the outside of those windows. I felt the wind, wasn't stormy or anything, more like a breeze, but that didn't correspond with the way the curtain was positioned, so a bit strange. From my bed, I looked back at the window and there was the Hatman at the end of my bed. All black, long coat, face also black, and he wore a wide-brimmed hat. He looked more like a shadow than anything else. The room was also fully lit at that point, although I did not switch on any lights. I assumed I had a bad dream, gathered my blanket and sheets, and went back to sleep. Didn't think anything more of it. A few days later, I had an actual nightmare where I walked past the double doors of my living room, the ones leading to the washroom. In real life, this was not possible because there was a couch there, so that's how I knew I was dreaming. So I walked past those doors when all of a sudden, one of the doors opened a bit and a hand reached out real quick and grabbed my ankle. Scared the crap out of me. Woke up with the same uneasy feeling I always had inside that house. But this time, I knew I was dreaming. When the Hatman came, I wasn't so sure. Not much later, I moved out because my boyfriend and I broke up, and I never ever had dreams like that again. But was I dreaming when I saw the Hatman, or was there really something off in that apartment? I will never know, I guess, but I do not know any other house I have ever lived in felt this off, and I moved a lot in my life. Thinking about that place can still give me the chills. Friend, always trust your gut and your instinct and your intuition. If you felt something was off in that apartment, then something was probably off in that apartment. And yes, I believe that you did actually see the Hatman. I don't know how you just gathered up your blankets and went back to sleep, though. Who else here has seen the Hatman? I know there's a lot of you. Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hey, Auntie. Hi. I wanted to share a wild experience I had about 10 years ago when I was a freshman in college. I was living in the dorms with a roommate I didn't know very well. We had one large room that we shared, so the room was split in half, a bed on each side, desks on each side, etc. In the middle of the room was my large futon that was the focal point. The room was overall well kept and tidy. So one night, I go to bed like normal. After a while, I wake up sitting on the futon. Something feels odd, and I notice that everything is in slow motion. My body feels light, but it takes forever for me to move my hand in front of my face to take a look at it. I slowly look to my right, and I see my roommate is asleep in her bed. Slowly, my head turns to the left, and I see my own body sleeping in my bed. I come to realize this must be a dream, but it was so vivid and realistic. I remember it in perfect detail to this day, down to the specks of dust floating in slow motion in the air and the bluish light coming from a light outside. I'm just sitting there, cross-legged, and overcome with this sense of peace and contentment. Suddenly, in a blink, I'm no longer sitting on the futon. I am floating in the furthest corner of the room near the door. I still see our sleeping bodies in the bed unmoving. Out of nowhere, 2 beings appear in the room. I can only describe these 2 beings as looking like firefighters, but they weren't human. They wore these big, heavy jackets or suits that covered their entire bodies, sort of like a firefighter would, but they didn't exactly have heads. They had some sort of head-like appendage, but it wasn't sitting on top of a neck on their shoulders like a human's head would. It was sunken into their body, so they were almost square. They had arms and legs, and they stood upright. They definitely had equipment with them, but it was equipment I had never seen before and couldn't understand. They had this authoritative air about them. They had a task, and it was urgent. They didn't speak to each other, but they were in communication somehow. I wasn't afraid of them, but I knew if they saw me, they would kill me. I just knew it. So I floated into the corner and I watched, but I did not make a sound. The beings moved through our room. They opened drawers, took out papers, opened and closed laptops. One stopped at my sleeping body and touched my hair. The other stopped to look at my roommate. They weren't interested in us at all, but they felt something for us. Was it pity, disgust, or a brief appreciation? I have no idea, but they were gentle and acknowledged our presence in a different way than they handed objects in the room. They moved through the room and looked through our closets and drawers, but they definitely had paid more attention to the desks at the other side of the room. I don't remember how or when they left. All I remember is they never did see me floating and watching them. That was the extent of the dream. I woke up to my roommate feeling very frustrated. "Did you go through my stuff last night?" she asked me. I looked around. Her desk had clearly been rifled through. So had her clothes and her makeup. I looked at my desk. Papers were taken out of drawers, pictures taken off the wall. The chair was pulled out from the desk and left askew. Someone had been in our room that night. What were they looking for? First of all, why do they not have heads? This gave me vibes of like the characters from Monsters, Inc., like from the CDA. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's what I was picturing when you were explaining that they were kind of square and their heads were kind of sunken down and they were wearing like a full body suit kind of situation. They were definitely there. First of all, you were astral projecting. You obviously were 100% were astral projecting. I think that's interesting. Has anyone else that's astral projected ever been moving like everything was in super slow motion? I wonder why that is. I wonder if there's a reason for that to happen when you're astral projecting, but you were definitely astral projecting and you were watching something look for something. I really want to know what they were looking for. Is your friend like an alien or something? Or did she steal something from an alien? These are wild guesses, but I really don't know. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing this really cool story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love your channel and have watched literally every video you have on Facebook. Woo! I have had a plethora of crazy and odd experiences, but I've only ever seen one UFO, so I figured I'd start there. One day in the middle of summer 2019, I had just left my house to go into town. I live in northern Michigan and my town is built around a lake. My town is a huge tourist spot in the summer, and at the time I lived on the main road that connected the west side of town to the east side. So that road was always extremely busy in summer. Sometimes you had to sit there for a good 10 minutes waiting to turn into traffic. So I was sitting on my side of the road waiting to turn out into traffic, and the lake is directly in front of me, just across the road, maybe 30 feet from my car, max. It was middle of the afternoon, sun was out, cars everywhere, and I was just casually admiring the view as I keep an eye on traffic for an opening. When suddenly, I see a bright silver flash in the sky. I immediately think plane or helicopter, as we have a small airport and a major hospital in my town. But instead of a plane or a helicopter, I see a perfectly spherical, smooth silver ball hovering about 100 feet above the water, and it was situated over the middle of the lake. This ball was huge. It looked massive from that view, so I knew it was big. It was not moving at all. It looked frozen in place. This happens over the span of maybe 60 seconds. The whole time I'm just downright confused, trying to figure out what this could be. UFO hadn't even crossed my mind at this point. Then I blink, and in the time it took me to blink once, it went from roughly 100 feet to 20 feet up. I was actually shocked. How is that possible? What is this thing? I'm staring at it as hard as I possibly can while it just sits there, hovering or whatever it's doing. It almost looked like it was part of the sky. Then it started moving forward a bit, then to the side until I realized it was making a huge circle around the perimeter of the lake. I've never seen anything move so seamlessly in my life. It was moving so smoothly, it almost looked like reality was bending around it instead of it moving through reality. Once it completed its circle, it made one more smaller circle and it flashed silver again and disappeared into thin air before my very eyes. No movement, no streak in the sky, nothing. It was there one instant and gone the next. I stayed there for another couple of minutes trying to figure out what the hell I had just seen. Finally, I just put it out of my mind and drove off. I have never seen anything like it before or since, but if I do, you'll be the first to know. Love you and your channel. Stay weird. I have heard of many triangular UFOs. I have heard of weird-shaped UFOs. I have not really heard of spherical ones. But if it was a perfect sphere like that and it was moving so seamless like that and quietly, no sound, had to be an alien craft. I wonder what it was doing with the lake. And I wonder, did it come out of the lake? Or did it go back in the lake? Or was it just looking for something in the lake? I wonder if when it disappeared, it turned on some kind of cloaking device, or if it kind of like went into another plane so you can't really see it, like on another frequency that we can't see, or in another dimension maybe that we can't see. Do you know what I mean? This is so interesting. Has anyone ever seen a spherical UFO like that before? Please let me know in the comments. I'm so interested. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I'm a new follower on TikTok. Welcome. Well, this is an older email, so you've probably been following for a while now. I've talked about this for a while, but I still want to share it with you. When I was 15, my dad had a freak accident. He caught himself on fire and died. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. For years after, I had PTSD due to seeing the whole thing. Yeah. I'd hear and see things that scared me, but doctors said that this was normal due to my illness. This eventually got better and almost never happened by my 20s. In 2014, I was pregnant with my first child. 1 month into my pregnancy, I started having a reoccurring nightmare. My whole families and my husband at the time all went on a vacation at this massive cabin with a wraparound porch. It was by several other cabins around a lake. During the vacation, there was a fair going on. In my dream, I wasn't pregnant. All us younger adults and teens decided to walk to this fair. On the way, we passed through a parking lot and I see a football player and a goth chick with a corset piercing down her back. Like, what the heck? How specific? They're arguing, and in my brain, I think, how could they possibly belong together? They were so opposite. That's when things change darkly. She makes immediate eye contact with me, and I feel like prey. We get into the fair, and she's following me. One by one, everyone I know is disappearing. Till finally, I'm in a panic and full-on running from her, and her facial features are becoming beyond terrifying. I make it back to the cabin, and everyone I know is frozen on the wraparound porch. My mom has 2 small children, a little girl and boy, and I know they are my kids. At the time of this dream, I'm pregnant with 1 child and don't know the gender. I'm standing there staring at everyone with no hope. I hear her say in a scratchy voice, "It's all of them or you." I turn to her and she has a small black box. It looks like a mini treasure chest. I say, "What do you mean?" And she says, "Your soul or their lives," and opens this box and it's full of fire. I wake up flushed and panicked. I had that dream my whole pregnancy. The day I had my daughter, it ended. I never had that dream. A few years go by and it's all but forgotten. I get pregnant for my second child, a son, in 2016. My ex, myself, and one of our couple friends are all riding around and we take an unknown road and it splits left and right. My ex goes right and it's a super old, forgotten, untouched cemetery. I refuse to get out of the car because I feel so unsafe. Like it's evil, literally all I could think. They get back in the car and we go home. That night I fall asleep and I'm almost like flying or something. I'm moving so fast down a road. I can't see my body or anything. I take a right and then a left and I'm on the same road. I'm getting scared. The road splits and I go left. The road comes to a field. There's a huge abandoned wooden building with a rusty tin roof. There's some sort of concrete slab. It's circular. Everything slows down and I see that there's a bonfire to the right, and then I look back at the slab. I see pillars and something black in the center. Against my will, I'm still moving forwards towards that structure. The black thing moves and I realize it's a woman in a black robe. She takes her hood off and it's the same woman from the previous nightmares. My heart sinks. I realize I'm being pulled forward. She speaks in this horrible voice and says, "I was going to leave you alone." Next thing I know, I'm pinned down on this slab and she begins to chant. I'm freaking out and crying. She cuts my stomach open and takes my child. And I wake up. I begged my ex to drive back there, and sure enough, there was a building and a circle patch. I ended up going to a church and talking with a priest. It's now been years. I have had a third child and no nightmares. I have no idea why I had such experiences, but it definitely scared me. There are pictures here, like Google Maps pictures. So is this the circle part? Okay. I don't know what I'm looking at exactly. Okay, this one has writing. This is home. This is the creepy property, and this is the cemetery. Okay, so that's where the road split. Oh my God. Okay. I want to say that I'm happy because when you had the second dream and your stomach was cut open, I was really worried about your baby, but you had the baby, so everything's okay. But what do we think was happening there? Who is this woman? Why was she saying it's either she takes all of your family and friends or your soul? I'm assuming you never gave your soul, right? Because you seem to wake up before anything actually would happen. I'm like literally so confused by this. I have no idea what's going on. I literally don't. I have no ideas. Like, I have no ideas. I have no idea why this was happening. I'm glad it didn't happen with your third. This is literally crazy. And those dreams are terrifying. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I need to know what you guys think in the comments. Please give me some ideas here because, like, what? Who is this woman? Thank you so much for sharing your story. This was crazy. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I hope you don't take offense to the quotations around your name. It's all in good fun, and I love your content. I don't really understand the quotes around my name, but I don't care. Not sure why, but I have noticed shifts or glitches happening more frequently lately. They're usually something simple that you might easily be able to dismiss if you aren't really paying attention. I'll give 3 examples from the last couple of weeks. Number 2 is the longest, but whatever you do, please make sure you read the third one. I have a feeling you'll really get a kick out of it. Number 1, TikTok glitch in time. I was watching a TikTok and lyrics to a song I know said 9. I thought to myself, that's odd. I remember it as lower. Maybe I'm remembering wrong and it's a later verse. So I listened and the second verse number was garbled and the video went wonky for a second. Then it glitched. It was odd though. It just seemed off. How it happened was like watching TV as a kid and your rabbit ears got bumped and it did that color streaks. It was like he was doing it as a transition effect because when it came back, he was wearing a hat. The text was gone so fast, I missed it when I tried to pause it, but it looked like it said 9 and 7 in the same spot. I couldn't find the glitch moving it back, so I just listened from the beginning again. I read along with captions and it said 9 in verse 1, so again, I waited for the second verse. This time it was clear, no transition or glitching, and the second verse said 7. I thought it was odd, no glitching transition. He just perfectly appeared with a hat on his head. Still, no big, could have been my phone or maybe my eyes, until it looped and said 7 again in the first verse, with the creator now wearing a hat they wore for the second verse but wasn't in one before. I played this several times after to verify, and the whole clip, it only ever said 7 now, and they always wore the hat. I'm interested to know what song is that, because I would love to go look at whatever video you're talking about. That's really like actively switching through different timelines as you're watching that video. 2, the snacky snack glitches. I enjoy trying new to my area chip flavors and candies with my boyfriend whenever we come across them. We've been doing this for the last 9 years. Now I bought one of these new to area flavors, Lay's ketchup, as well as another bag of Lay's wavy as a palate cleanser for said movie night, which already included wasabi Kit Kats, assorted Asian candies, Japanese cookies and crackers, and some Korean and Chinese snacks. When I got home, I put the grocery bags down in front of the box of Asian treats that was delivered earlier. I grabbed the bag of Lay's ketchup chips, put it behind my back, and ran into the room and was like, guess what I got? And I pulled it out saying Lay's ketchup chips. He looked at me odd and said, cool, but those are wavy. I was like, odd. I could have swore I grabbed, hang on, I'll go grab the other bag. But it's also Lay's wavy. I'm laughing, yelling up at my boyfriend that they somehow put an extra bag of wavy in instead of the ketchup. I pull out the receipt and figure I'll call and see if I can hop back and switch the rogue bag out, but I see the first 2 item lines both say Lay's wavy at $4. At this point, I might have thought I just grabbed the wrong bag, but that just isn't possible. Here's why. A, they were on different shelves away from each other. One on the top shelf, 2 shelves down to the right by a whole other flavor. B, I kept looking at them in my basket and laughing because I just watched a video of Lay's ketchup chip and thought I'd like to try those at one of our odd flavors parties one day, and the store just happened to have a brand new section of them. C. When I put them on the belt, I thought how it's a good thing that they had them separated the way that they did so people don't mix them up since they are both red. I read the bag name ketchup as I set it next to the other bag and thought the ketchup one is slightly darker and wondered if the chili lemon flavor bag would be a darker red or about the same. D. The cashier made a comment about how they just stocked them that morning and not being sure about ketchup flavored chips. E. The screen I was looking at to make sure my phone number went through for the buy 2 bags for $8 deal instead of paying $6.49 each bag, it had Lay's Wavy, one at $4, and Lay's Ketchup, one at $4, in the first 2 lines and at this store. F. When multiple items out of the same product are scanned, they combine to show the total item of that product bought, even if scanned separately. So sometime between putting the ketchup chips behind my back and pulling them out to show the boyfriend, they switched. But that's not all, though. Remember how I said I put the grocery bags in front of the Asian treats box? After I saw the receipt, I finished putting the other few things I got away, picked up the box, and moved it to the end of the kitchen counter on the way out. My boyfriend was walking into the kitchen, and I said, at least we still have the Asian snacks for the movie. We can start the movie after I get out of the bathroom. And asked him if he wanted to get a pizza since neither of us felt like cooking, and we agreed nothing we had there was quick and sounded good. He agreed to pizza, and he said he knows the perfect movie to watch tonight. When I got out, I went to where I left the box so that I could open it and get it arranged like I always do. It was gone. I figured my boyfriend did it for us and yelled back asking if he wanted me to make popcorn to go with the movie, and he said, "No, I'm not really in the mood for snacks. I'm eating dinner now." I replied, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm not ordering a pizza then?" He says, "No thanks, I'm already eating something, but you can order one if you want." I thought that response was odd since we just agreed on pizza, and of course I could have pizza if I wanted. It's not like I needed his permission to buy myself a pizza with my money I earn at my job, nor do I need permission to eat whatever I want. But I let it slide and I didn't say anything. After I ordered myself a pizza, because after checking again, I was still of the same mind, I went into the room and he was playing a video game. I didn't see our movie treats anywhere, only his dinner, so I asked about them, and he said he never saw them, and he asked what the box looked like. So I went to pull up a picture of the box in the locker app, but it didn't have the delivery for that day. I went to the text to see if maybe it was delivered another day, but there wasn't any for that delivery. I went to the website, couldn't find any order of the 3 orders we made with them. He asks me what's wrong, and I tell him I can't find the orders for international candies. He just shrugs and says, "Don't know what to tell you." We have some back and forth, and I say how I was looking forward to trying the different flavors and some of the candies and chips with him, and he stops playing and looks at me like I'm crazy and asks why he would want to try anything like that. I was shocked, because that's what we do. We try different flavors and now snacks from around the world and make fun of the faces the other person makes. He shakes his head like that sounds bonkers to him, and he goes back to playing. Again, been doing this 9 years. Since he's playing his game, I sit down to watch and ask what movie he picked for us tonight. He says he didn't pick any movie. I remind him we were discussing watching a movie before I went to the bathroom, and he said he had the perfect one. He says no, he's playing a game, but I can watch whatever movie I want to. Again, odd, but I didn't let it go this time since I had the heebie-jeebies about this obvious shift, and the way it was being said wasn't a nice, friendly, if you want to, but I'm not going to. It was said more like I didn't have the right or ability to do anything without first asking the man in my life if I could. I made it very well known that I am very well aware that I have full autonomy to buy what I want with my money, eat what I want, go where I want, and do what I want, and watch what I want without needing his or anyone's permission to do so. He looked at me like I grew another arm and slapped him with it and shouldn't be saying such things. What is happening to you, friend? It literally seems like you're actively shifting into other timelines, but consciously, like you're consciously doing it as they're changing. What? I am baffled by these. Wait, there's one more, and I said I really need to read this one. The Matrix glitch. This TikTok creator pops up in my FYP when I first started my TikTok account. They do all these glitch in the Matrix stories. They're funny and fun to watch. They started off with the ones everyone knows, Mandela, Statue of Liberty location being allowed in the light, and then move on to some newer ones they've come across during deep dives into the Mandela effect, and then videos of planes and birds stuck in the air while people are talking and moving. And it just kept evolving from there and eventually having follower submissions. They're a lot like you, except their account's name is The Matrix Glitch. Because of a TikTok glitch since August/September, I have to keep refollowing some creators, and this account was one I've had to refollow a few times in the last couple of months, and is always the only one with that name and profile picture. One day, I'm watching one of their videos, and it starts with the usual explanation and how to submit a story, and then goes into reading the follower submission. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Wait, what? The creator shakes like they got the chills and says, "Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that," and says something about not being sure that's their vibe before they continue reading. The next day, they pop on my FYP with a new name, same profile picture. I'm sure you guessed it, Auntie Matrix. I didn't think anything of it until I was showing The Matrix Glitch time video I thought he'd like because it's paranormal to my boyfriend. And the letter started, "Hi, Auntie Matrix," and you very excitedly sing-songed, "Hi!" Glitch in the Matrix number 208. I went back further and further, and every letter that started "Hi Matrix" or "Hi Glitch" or "Hi Matrix Glitch" now started with "Hi Auntie Matrix." And the submission email is no longer the same, The Matrix Glitch, followed by random numbers, because someone already had the Matrix Glitch email. It's an Auntie Matrix email. I searched TikTok for the Matrix Glitch users, and none of them, the Matrix Glitch accounts, are you, only the Auntie Matrix account. So hi, Auntie Matrix. I'm very curious to know, have you ever gone by the Matrix Glitch? If so, how long ago? Because I've looked several times through random videos, including today, and can't find references to it, even though it was that for me until a couple of weeks ago. Also, have you noticed shifting or glitches happening more consistently, almost like rolling wave instead of the occasional storm? Bye-bye. You're not so new follower. Okay, what? Is there another timeline where there's someone that reads these stories and they're called the Matrix Glitch? I have never gone by the Matrix Glitch. I was Tessica Vision first, and my username is still Tessica Vision, but my name is now like Auntie Matrix on here, but my username is still Tessica Vision. I was Tessica Vision first, and I did a bunch of spiritual stuff, and then I got into doing this. I was never the Matrix Glitch. Again, it sounds like you're actively changing timelines. Like you were watching those videos from the Matrix Glitch, and then it was the Matrix Glitch reading one that said, "Hi, Auntie Matrix," and they were like, "Ooh, that's kind of weird." And then it was me being like, "Hi, I'm Auntie Matrix." What is happening, friend? This is so crazy. Has anybody else heard of this The Matrix Glitch account? I have had so many stories, obviously, of glitches in the Matrix, of timelines, shifting dimensions, quantum immortality, switching into another timeline. I have never had stories where the person is actively seeing a shift, like seeing it as it's happening, like it's like morphing, like their timeline is morphing. That is so crazy. Has anyone else experienced stuff like that? And does anybody else know the Matrix Glitch? Because I've never heard of that in my life. And has anybody else used to know me as the Matrix Glitch or something in a different timeline? This is crazy. Please let me know in the comments. I need to hear. And thank you so much for sharing this crazy story. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Thank you for taking the time and giving us an opportunity to tell our stories. I have lots of stories of unexplained or paranormal things that have happened to me and my family, but we will stick to what happened to me recently. When I have dreams, I am always aware that I am dreaming. I can't find myself to ask what time and day it is, but I go through my dreams knowing that I am dreaming and questioning things. Well, the dream I had a couple of days ago seemed so real. It felt like it was just one of my regular days in real life, if that makes sense. It started by me being outside, and it felt like I was in the 1950s on the left side of my house. It was not the house that I have now. It was open area with a pond. There was a married couple in their 70s building a bike for their grandkid. I got close to see if they needed any help, and they said no. The lady mentioned that they were very thankful that we were their neighbor. My son had helped them earlier with some chores. Sounds like something my son would do. I walked inside my house. It looked a lot smaller than the one I have, and remember I mentioned it felt like it was around the 1950s? Well, the kitchen appliances looked like they were 20 to 30 years older than that. The house looked like it needed some work, and when work was done, it was messy and ugly. I see my 14-year-old daughter in the kitchen making a sandwich. Remember, this dream felt real. So I started telling my daughter how I don't remember if I had a dream or why I have this memory. I start to tell her how there is this house that maybe I dreamt, and I start describing the house that I currently live on with the same furniture and the way it's decorated now. I said to her there was a party going on and started telling her where each family member was in the house and who they were interacting with. My daughter was listening to me and was shocked as I kept telling her more details. When I woke up, I realized that the party I was describing in my dream was the first Thanksgiving party we hosted when we bought this house. I am still shocked and confused. I told my daughter about this dream, and her theory is maybe that was me in a different timeline, different universe. What are your thoughts? That is exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say it sounds like you were astral traveling to a different timeline of yours, and you were living in there, and that one was kind of remembering you living in this timeline and vice versa, which is so cool. Second story, since the first one was a little short. My mom passed away in November of 2015. My birthday is in January. As my birthday got closer, I was depressed and didn't want to celebrate. Every night, I would be in bed praying and just telling my mom about my day or how I miss her. The night before my birthday, I was in bed crying and telling her how this will be my first birthday I will have without her and that I wish that she was still here with us. That night, I had a dream. I was driving, and on the side of the road, I see my sister walking with my mom. She's holding her hand, like keeping her safe so she wouldn't fall. I was in shock because I knew my mom had already passed away. I walked towards them, and the way I looked at my sister, she knew I was asking her, how is this possible? My sister tells me, I already called the rest of the siblings to come fast and see mom. I couldn't keep my eyes off her. She looked so happy and smiling. I could feel her and smell her, and the rest of my siblings arrive and are around. At this point, I am outside of this circle. I'm admiring my mom when all of a sudden my mom stops. She turns to my side, looks straight at me, and goes, "Oh, today is your birthday, right? Happy birthday." As she walks out of the circle she was in and gives me the biggest hug. I know it was my mom visiting me. I don't dream of her often, but when I do, I know she has passed away and I know she's visiting me in my dreams. Oh, I just love when we have stories of loved ones visiting. I love that she visited on your birthday. That's so beautiful. I also wonder, does your sister remember this at all? Like, did she also have the same dream? I wonder if you were actually together in your dreams with all of your family members and your mom was like visiting everybody. But that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you had that visit. That is so special. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Not quite a glitch or a ghost story, just something unique that I had happened to me several times in my life. After living and working around a small city for several years, my job was a pizza delivery driver. I got in the habit of figuring out how long it would take a red light to change, and as soon as I got the green light, I would mash on the gas pedal and go on my way. I was not a very patient driver back then. But on this day, I was sitting at the stoplight waiting for a green light. It did, of course, change, yet when I thought to press the gas pedal down, a voice in my head said, "Look." I thought to myself, okay, without a second thought. I looked to my right and then to the left. As I just turned my head all the way to the left, a big rig with a trailer went in front of my car. I actually sat there looking back and forth a couple of more times. As I finally drove off, I thought to myself, I think that my car and myself would have been thoroughly squished if I had reacted like normal. Not the only time I had something like this happen to me. I will most likely share more with you. Yes, my friend, this is a common theme. This happens to a lot of people. I'm wondering if the person that said, "Look," is that like your higher self? Is it an angel? Is it a guide? Who is it? But I am so glad that you listened, and I am so glad that you are okay. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hey, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I've been wanting to share this story for a while, but I wasn't sure if it was a glitch or not. It's still super cool, though, and pretty short. My family has always been from North Carolina since back in the 1700s. Back during the Civil War, my fourth great-grandfather was sent to a place right outside of Savannah, Georgia, to keep the Union Army from getting to the city. Yes, he was a Confederate. No, I am not happy or proud of that. Anyway, he was shot in a battle called the Battle of Monteith Swamp and died in what later would be Effingham County. Well, fast forward to the 90s. My dad was living in North Carolina where my family had remained. He joined the military and got sanctioned at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah. A few years later, he and my mom bought a piece of land in Effingham County right outside of Savannah with no knowledge of my grandpa or any of my family history and built a house on the plot that was filled in and used to be a swamp. Well, growing up in that house, my family and I always noticed weird noises and taps, cold spots, and things getting moved around. We would tell my dad, and his response is always something to the effect of, "It's not like this was a burial ground or a battle site or anything. It's not haunted." Later, though, when I was about 10, my dad got into Ancestry and found out that my grandpa had been killed no less than a few yards from our house. We have so many stories from the house, but now we know who our ghosts are. We always refer to our spirits by their names, and whenever weird stuff happens, we normally just say, "Fourth great grandpa is pissed." That is so crazy that you actually bought land and built a house like right next to where your grandfather died in battle. That's so crazy. I wonder if like your dad was subconsciously drawn there for that reason. But at least you know who the ghost is and he's friendly. That was super cool. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hey, Auntie. Hi. So this is a lot, but I'll do my best to condense the best I can. Ever since I was little, as well as long before I was born, multiple members of my immediate family have experienced and shared their unexplained experiences. From a ghostly figure at the foot of my grandfather's bed, one saving my grandmother while she was choking in her sleep, coffee cups swinging on their display tree, and the whole family seeing our backyard neighbor's house on fire, even though it wasn't when the fire department got there. It's been decades of experiences. However, none of it started until after my Aunt S used a Ouija board with her friends in her early teens. Shocker! Came from a Ouija board. The theory is she didn't close the door properly, and this, our home, but mostly her, became haunted. I'm assuming you meant close the board, not the door. You have to close the board. Say goodbye. Or just like don't Ouija. Just like don't Ouija. She moved to my great-grandpa's house a few doors down before I was born, and all of the events stopped happening, at least in the house I lived in. So it was attached to her then. One day when I was about 8 or 9, my older sister and I were over her house down the block just playing with toys and hanging out with our cousin. I always felt weird in her house, but this day, something was very different. It started with the attic door opening, ladder and all, by itself. It's an old house, so we didn't think much of it. But then it got really creepy. My cousin had one of those toy fire trucks that would move forward on its own after you pulled it back. As soon as the attic door settled, this fire truck was racing across the carpet and stopped at the door of the ladder. And then came a chilling laugh from up in the attic. My aunt, having dealt with things like this for over 10 years now, immediately grabbed our coats and took us for a walk in the rain. As kids, we all quickly let the weirdness go and had fun on our rainy walk. After about half an hour, we made it back to the house, and I will never understand this sight, but as soon as we walked through the door, you could see all of the dining room chairs now on top of the table, and all 4 chairs were suspended, absolutely impossibly, in midair with just one of each chair leg atop the table. Nope. That's like a poltergeist thing. Nope. That scares me so much. I have so many chills right now. We all stood frozen, probably trying to process the how and the why, when after at least 2 minutes of staring, all 4 chairs suddenly regained their mass and slammed to the floor. I remember running home to tell my dad and grandparents, half excited and half terrified, only for them to tell us we weren't going to play at my aunt's anymore. My family sold the house not too long after, but unfortunately, whatever it was followed my aunt and my cousin. I have at least 4 more wild and weird supernatural experiences from any place she lived over the years. Maybe one day I'll be brave enough to share them all. And I know for sure that she is haunted. At least it was a very clear lesson on why you should never mess with a Ouija board. Thanks for being a safe space to share. That is a hard nope for me. All of the things in the kitchen, happening with the kitchen, things stacked, cabinets open, chairs stacked. Nope. No, thank you. I think this one scared me the most of all so far. Has your aunt ever tried to get rid of this thing? Has she ever tried to cleanse herself? Has she ever used her words and told it to go away? Or is she just letting it run rampant in her house and mess with her chairs? Let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Matrix. Hi. I have to say thank you for having a safe place to tell our stories. I love all the stories. I apologize for the long story. Can't wait for the release of the book. Oh, the book is out. This is an old email because I'm going through old emails. It's right here. Shameless plug. Look at my book. I love you. Okay, bye. Now to the story. This started when I was 6 years old. I had an imaginary friend like most kids, black sheep of the house. My imaginary friend was the size of a 1-year-old, but was very smart and very mischievous. We were always mixing soap and lotion to make magic potions, playing with bees, standing on rooftops, and playing with lizards, etc. Fast forward to my 9 years of age. I started to notice my imaginary friend, Pedrito, taking me places I didn't recognize. Short backstory, we lived in Puerto Rico and is all the trees and mountains behind our home. I used to wander off, walk, all that, and come back home, no issues, and safe. Back on track, I started to wander off like usual while talking to Pedrito, but now it seems longer and different. I even saw random people I never saw before. One day I had to run home due to having people follow me, so I thought. When I got home, I saw Pedrito standing at the door like he was wondering where I was. That shook me because I was talking to him while I was running. Being 9 years old, I just told him, I am mad at you for taking me so far from home. Why didn't you warn me? You always warn me. I went inside, drank water, and went to take a nap. When I opened my eyes, I had 2 entities. I call them entities, not sure what they were, standing at the entrance of my room door. One looked like the Ripper, and the other was dressed all white from hair to clothes, bright white. Both of them were signaling me to follow them. I was frozen, no movement, no sound, nothing. They both walked off because I was not able to follow. I always wondered what would have happened if I did. After that, I never saw Pedrito. I always asked myself, was Pedrito supposed to be my savior or my demise? Was he taken from me because he didn't complete his purpose? Was he an actual imaginary friend? Who was I talking to and spending time with? Was Pedrito my imaginary friend or an entity? What are your thoughts? My thoughts are Pedrito was your imaginary friend, but wasn't an imaginary friend, was maybe a guide or a protector that was hanging out with you, or a spirit or something, but like a protector-like spirit, and that this other entity that took you to the faraway places was not Pedrito, was disguising themselves as Pedrito so that you would follow them and talk to them. But then if that's the truth, I don't know why they were both standing in your doorway and they were telling you to come with them. Maybe they were both not good? Oh my God, I don't really know. Now I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I need to know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I've debated telling anyone this story, but I need to hear people's thoughts on this. This happened in the fall of 2021. In the middle of the night at what I call the witching hour between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., I was woken up by a very bright light. It was so bright it was blinding. It came from the middle of our bedroom and it seemed to be floating. It was like an orb of light that was bright in the center. As it went outward, it was going from a light to a darker purple. The source was not from the outside window or the hallway. I quickly sat up and I watched this light just float there. And I remember having to put my hand over my forehead/eyes because it was so bright. Like when you go outside and the sun is so bright, you have to protect your eyes. This lasted maybe around 30 to 50 seconds. I can't be too sure. All of a sudden, it was gone. I looked at my husband and he was also sitting up. I asked him, did you see that? And he said, yes. What was that? I was so glad he saw it because he never would have believed me if he hadn't. Nothing came from it. We did not notice anything weird happening in our home. Nothing before either. We still talk about it and ask, what was that? I'm hoping this community can shed some light on this or comment if they have had this happen to anyone else before. I have never heard of that. The closest that sounds to me is an orb. So maybe it was an orb. Maybe it was a spirit. Maybe it was also some kind of extraterrestrial being. And you never saw it again. I'm really, really glad that your husband saw it as well, because I would have felt crazy too. Like, oh man, I definitely dreamed that. But if both of you saw it, it is so validating when someone else has the same experience with you and you had nothing else happen before or after. What do you guys think? Do you think it was a spirit, like an orb, like a regular orb? Or do you think it was an alien? Or do you think it was something else, just like an interdimensional being of light just watching? Or something that just like popped in from another dimension? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. That concludes our creepy compilation for today. If you enjoy those stories, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel because we're going to do more videos like this. But if you want to keep it going right now, you can check out this video or this playlist.